You're listening to the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
It's the final week of the regular season, week 11. Next week, the playoffs start in the state of Texas, and definitely in the H. We have some big games to talk about. I am Marc Henry here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron, on the LSG Network, the authority of high school football. Man, we're going to talk about a few big games. Probably one of the biggest games that features North Shore and Summer Creek in that competitive 23-6A district. And, hey, next week the playoffs start. We'll look forward to that and more right here in the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We're going to take a small break, and we're going to hop right into it. First, we'll go over a few scores from last week, and then we'll hop into final week of the season as the playoffs are up on us here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron.
Are you ready to take your game to the next level? Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just someone striving for more success in life, the Winner's Workshop is your secret weapon. Yes, this award-winning course has transformed thousands of lives, teaching the game-changing principles of sports psychology that Fortune 500 companies, coaches, and top performers all use to win. The Winner's Workshop, subtitled How Sports Psychology Can Make You a Champion, is now available on CoachTube for a fraction of the original $499 price. The Winner's Workshop will help you master focus, mindset, and breakthroughs to make you a champion. Click on the link in the show notes or head over to LoneStarGridiron.com and click on the ad today to unlock your full potential.
Let's go over a few scores from last week. You got Shadow Creek over South Houston 49-0. Side Creek over Northbrook 41-16. Elkins gets a big one over Clemens 64-12. Ridge Point stays hot in a big one. We talked about this game last week. Ridge Point 35-20 over Hightower. That's a big win. Ridge Point's going to be one of those teams that can make a deep playoff run. Going to be tough to get out of this region, but I think that they can do it. You know, depends on how everything shakes up, and we'll be talking about that here in the next few days. Clear Lake over Clearbrook, 46-35. Memorial gets by Jersey Village, 24-14. Stratford over Side Ridge, 42-10. Westside blanks Chavez, 58-0. Humble, big one over Goose Creek, 35-7. Cinco Ranch over Morton Ranch, 56-42. Maid Creek over Seven Lakes, 44-14. That's a big victory. And we'll talk about some of these playoffs matchups possibly here in a few minutes. Willis over Grand Oaks, 63-21. That Willis team is looking very, very good as, you know, they head into the playoffs. You know, we knew they would lose everything quarterback, DJ Lagway to Florida. But, you know, you wonder how they will respond, and they've done a masterful job up there in Willis, and they're keeping that stuff rolling, man. I like what they're doing up there. A couple of more scores from last week that we'll talk about as we head into the final week of the season. Side Lakes over Langham Creek, 35-34 in a barn burner. Cypress Springs stays hot with a big victory over Waller, 45-38. Side Woods over Cypress Park, 63-6. Big win for those guys. Dickinson gets by Clear Falls, 69-28. Dickinson could be a scary first-round matchup for someone. Travis over Dulles, 31-3. Fulshire stays hot with a big one over Elsik, 42-16. North Shore, who we'll talk about shortly, with a big victory over Seed King, 42-14. And they are definitely one of those teams to look at going into the playoffs. Summer Creek, we'll talk about them in a few minutes, with a big victory over Kingwood Park last week, 42-14. The Atascocita rebounds with a big victory over Channelview, 55-0. And we'll take a small break. We're going to come back and get right into some of these matchups with district implications, playoff implications in the H as we look forward to the playoffs on next week right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We'll be right back.
Hey coaches, you may have already missed the boat on getting your own coach's show this season on Lone Star Gridiron. But did you know we're doing basketball shows this year? That's right. If you're a basketball coach and you want your own coach's show, we have a great business model that allows you or your booster club to make money from the show and at the same time promote your program, your kids, and all the amazing things happening with your basketball team. To find out how you can get your very own basketball coaches show, reach out to Chris at 713-269-4620.
It's the time of the year where playoff seeding, district championships are on the line, and we're going to talk about a few games in the final week of the season here in the H that look out for that possibly have playoff implications. We'll start with Sidewoods and Bridgeland. Sidewoods is 8-1, 5-1 in the district, and Bridgeland is undefeated in the district and a lone loss early in the season. This is going to decide the 16-6A playoff race. This is a game on tonight. This is being recorded on Thursday. That Bridgeland can clinch a share of the crown, but they're not in the sharing mood. I mean, you got to look at what Bridgeland's done here in the past. These guys have really been the creme de la creme of this particular district for a mighty long time. They have been an established program, and they want nothing but to do better, but to ruin Sidewoods' chance of winning this. But Woods, on the other hand, can clinch a share of this with a victory. Now, this is one of those competitive games that you want to prepare yourself for the playoffs. Last week Bridgeland, took care of business against Cypress Ranch in a 41-3. Their defense is playing very, very well. They held the Mustangs to a total of 110 yards and only 2 yards of play. That's saying something. They'll need that now going against Cypress Woods. Junior quarterback Darian Rogers has 26 TDs and only 1 pick on the year. This is going to be a great game, definitely with some district implications and playoff seeding on the line. Big game. Bridgeland and Sidewoods. I like this matchup. Now, Manville and Dobie, that's a big game. Dobie's 4-3 in district. Manville's 5-2 in district. Now, Manville had a tough slate of games going on in the beginning of the season. They went and played some of the best. But here's the thing: with a victory, they can clinch a playoff berth, but they just got to, get past Dobie. Right now, Manville's got a half-game lead over Dawson in 22-6A and a full game lead on Dobie. But Dobie can get into the playoffs and muddy things up a little bit. So I think that this is a big game as well. My guy, shout out to Cam Renfro, man. He's been playing phenomenal. He transferred over from Iowa Colony. Has 19 touchdowns on the season. Also rushed for 265 yards and 6 scores. Manville's putting up, a lot of points with 45 points per game in district play. But Dobie is talented. Cameron Matthews is a name you need to know in that Dobie backfield, and he's going to be a guy that gets a boatload of the carries. And, Manville's going to be, gearing up to stop this guy. He's one of the top rushers in the area, and I think this is going to be a big game over there. And, who wins? That's to be decided. That's why they play the game. But Manville-Dobie is definitely a matchup. If I had nothing else to do, definitely want to check that one out. Now, we're going to talk about Angleton and Crosby. Crosby's one of those teams that's been a playoff team, and shout out to Angleton, who's really stepped it up this year. Both teams are 5-1 and 11-5 AD1. Right now, this is for the number 2 seed in the Division I playoffs. Crosby's got the home field advantage. Angleton's got to come on the road. But hey, if you know anything about Crosby, you know that they got one of the best backs in the state in Arizona commit. Wesley Yarbrough's rushed for over 1,600 yards and 20 touchdowns. He had 280 yards and 5 touchdowns in a big victory over Porter last week, 49-26. But now Angleton is averaging over 47 points a game as well, and only giving up 10. So, this is a big game. Jamarcus Shockley is one of those guys that totes the rock for them, over 900 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. When you average 8 yards a carry, you're hard to stop. So definitely something that's cooking over there, and definitely a game that I will have an eye on as well. But let's talk about the big game that everybody's going to be wanting to see. North Shore travels back to Humble to take on Summer Creek. Now, if you listen to the show regularly, you know that we were in the house for the North Shore Tascasita game that ended up being a 27-23 victory. North Shore comes back in the end and wins it. Tascasita played a phenomenal game in the first half, but North Shore held them scoreless in the second half. They were up 23-20. Fast forward to Summer Creek. This is a team that definitely wants to get some revenge back. North Shore's run 7 in a row against these guys. And Summer Creek, where they went on a big run last year and got to the Division II, 6A Division II championship, but they got handled by DeSoto, which, listen, that DeSoto team was one of the best teams in the country last year. Fast forward to this week. Hey, North Shore wants to prove a point that they're the best team in 23-6A. They want to prove a point that they're the number 2 team. And, in their eyes, they're the number 1 team in the state. With Duncanville, in the rankings, sitting ahead of them. They got aspirations to go on to get back to the state title. But first, they got to take care of the Bulldogs. Of course, the quarterback matchup is going to be a matchup that everybody's going to be looking at. Caleb Bailey's finally a senior. He won the state championship as a freshman. He's been starting there for 4 years. Thrown for over 1,500 yards and 19 touchdowns. He's also rushed for over 350 yards and 5 scores. Dual threat. He's the catalyst back there for those guys. Now, on the flip side for Summer Creek, you got Blake Thomas, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the state as well. Thrown for over 1,900 yards and 26 touchdowns. Rushed for over 411 scores. Who's going to make the big play here? I think that, defensively, who the usual suspects are. Chad Wolford for the Summer Creek Bulldogs is one of the best guys in the nation. And then you got on the other side, you got Charles Ross, Devin Sanchez, Chase Calicut, and Pringle playing corner as well. Cedric Henderson's a guy. They're going to have their hands full. But, this is a big game with a lot of bragging rights at stake between 2 of the better teams in the state. Now, who wins it? That's up for grabs. I think you got to go into this game looking at North Shore as the favorite. They have the momentum. The star power is going to be in the building. Hopefully the rain or predicted bad weather, hopefully this doesn't get in the way. This is a great contest, probably one of the better contests in the state. And you can't end the season in a better way. Both teams will head to the playoffs. North Shore will most likely be the number 1 seed in Division I, and Summer Creek will be the number 1 seed in Division II in the 6A playoffs. So, hey, this is what you got to do. This is what they need to do. And, Summer Creek's got something on the line, bragging rights. This will be a great win if they can get past North Shore to go into the playoffs with some momentum. So, definitely a game that I definitely will be taking a look at. Not sure if we're going to pull up or not, but if we do pull up, we will have interviews and everything for you next week as we head into the playoffs. A couple more games to look at. Straight Jesuit takes on Foster in 26A. Paytown Jordan, that's a big matchup. Both teams 6-1 in that District 19-6A. I like that matchup. I like Jordan. I like Pato. We'll see what happens with that. Nimitz and Decaney in the 14-6A matchup. Check out this matchup. Lufkin and Galveston Ball in 9-5A D1. Of course, we know, Jonah Williams is down, probably out for the season with an injury. But Lufkin's a talented team. Coming all the way from East Texas. That's saying something. They'll have to deal with those tornadoes from Galveston Ball. Man, that's the top team. Kaiden Barker is one of the top quarterbacks, in my opinion, in the state. He's playing at a phenomenal level. That'll be a game to watch. And that'll be Friday night in Galveston. Man, what a game. A couple more games to look at. Fur and Yates. That'll be a battle for second place in 11-4A. Shout out to Yates with a big victory over Washington last week. Deer Park and Dickinson's a big game in 24-6A. Needville and Stafford, 12-4A D1. That's a big matchup. Needville's undefeated in the district. Stafford's 3-1. Who's going to win it? Definitely a big game. Waltrip and Sterling, how about that? Waltrip 6-1. Sterling 6-1 in 10-5A Division I. That's a big game. It'll be Saturday over at Barnett Stadium. But that's all we got for you this week. We definitely have had a great season right here at the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron, on the LSG Network. But we'll be back next week to talk playoffs. A lot of interesting matchups this weekend as we broke it down for you, but the playoffs is where it's at. You got 6 games to get to state. Who's going to make it? We'll definitely know when it starts next week. Again, we appreciate you watching us here or listening to us right here on the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network. You can follow us on Twitter at Third Gridiron. You can follow me on Twitter at MarkHen44 or at TXTP Show on Twitter and Instagram as well. We will talk to you next week. We out.
Are you ready to take your game to the next level? Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just someone striving for more success in life, the Winner's Workshop is your secret weapon. Yes, this award-winning course has transformed thousands of lives, teaching the game-changing principles of sports psychology that Fortune 500 companies, coaches, and top performers all use to win. The Winner's Workshop, subtitled How Sports Psychology Can Make You a Champion, is now available on CoachTube for a fraction of the original $499 price. The Winner's Workshop will help you master focus, mindset, and breakthroughs to make you a champion. Click on the link in the show notes or head over to LoneStarGridiron.com and click on the ad today to unlock your full potential.